The New York Times ranking of the best movies of the 21st century has confirmed once again how pointless ranking movies is. I can't stand movies lists, and this is just one of the latest lists to really hit home for me how much I don't like them. Let's talk about it. So, the New York Times recently put together a list of the greatest movies of the 21st century so far. To make this list happen, they consulted film critics, directors, writers, actors, celebrities in general, stand-up comedians. I mean, it's a pretty wide-ranging list of people, and it's pretty much what you'd expect. All the big names and big movies that you've heard about over the years are ranked near the top. And just a quick shout out, a sincere congratulations to one voting member on the list, John Waters, the filmmaker, the Baltimore resident and director, who has the distinction of having the only top 10 list in which not one of his choices made the top 100 final list. I am not being sarcastic, and I am not being ironic. One of the movies he puts on his list is Irreversible, which is a movie from 2003, I think, Gaspar, and it's a film that many consider literally unwatchable. In fact, I think in Roger Ebert's original review, he says that several of the critics at the critic screening walked out because they couldn't take it anymore. It is one of the most brutal, relentless, and just kind of vile films you will ever see. But Roger Ebert liked it, and like Roger Ebert, I like it, and like John Waters, obviously. I do think it's a very good movie, and I think it really gives truth to the saying that Francois Truffaut said. It was back in the 60s in an interview. I can't quote it directly, so this is going to be a rough paraphrase, but basically that cinema should show you what you don't want to see and tell you what you don't want to hear. And there's absolutely value in making movie for just pure entertainment purposes. There's absolute value in making movies for just pure sake of beauty. But there's also value in confrontation. There's value in making art that confronts the viewer with something extremely uncomfortable. And if there is any value in that at all, there is probably no greater example than Irreversible. So I salute John Waters for just putting that on his list. He also puts Dancer in the Dark on there, by the way. I think Melancholy is better than Dancer in the Dark, but I love Dancer in the Dark nonetheless. I think Björk gives an incredible performance in that film, and the film itself has such a natural, real, honest, emotional flow to it that it overwhelms the viewer. And the fact that it isn't a musical, but it has musical numbers, that it's not a comedy, but there are funny parts. It's a movie that seems to cover the art of making movies in and of itself. And the fact that it was done on digital film at such an early stage in the history of digital film means it was also out there pioneering and taking a chance on a new technical medium from which to tell its story. So again, you got one person on the entire damn thing, John Waters, who's putting together what appeared to me at least to be a more thoughtful list than almost anybody else. One of the reasons I object so much to these lists is that they limit their participants to ballots of 10, which is incredibly restricting and incredibly limiting. When the Sight and Sound poll began in 1952, they did this, and in 1952, they had just reached just around the 50-year mark of feature film making at that point. There had been movies since the 1890s, but feature-length film was just around the 50-year mark when the Sight and Sound poll started. So asking people to submit a list of 10 probably seemed reasonable. A nice round number, it worked. But in the year 2022, when you're 70 years advanced from that original list, you've got more feature films available for voting on than the original participants had by a factor of about 5 or 6. It has grown in quantity far more than just a set amount by any given year. So, asking people to take several hundreds of thousands of movies and give me a list of 10 is as pointless as just saying just name a movie. Really, just give me one. Just give me one movie. You might as well. What's the point? Years ago, I took part in a poll of the greatest musicals of all time. It is the only poll I ever agreed to, and the reason I agreed to it is because they wanted their participants to submit ballots of 50 titles or more. And I originally thought I might have some trouble coming up with a top 50 for musicals. Do I even know that many? And guess what? In no time at all, I was desperately trying to winnow down a list of 200 to a list of 50 to submit. And giving a list of 50 allowed me to include every type of musical there was, from the early 30s and late 20s, the very, very start of musicals, to musicals from all different countries, musicals from all different musical styles, musicals from all different genres and types, stage singing musicals, musicals of the moment, musicals based around rock operas. It allowed me to not just say, well, I've only got 10 choices and I want to make sure Singing in the Rain gets on there, so I better make sure I put that on. It allowed me to go out there and to really expand my thinking on it and include so many more. It allows the ballot to be more diverse and more inclusive. And so I wrote a piece about this. This was back in 2012 when Turner Classic Movies had the blog Movie Morlocks, and as movie blogs go, that was one of the absolute top ones. Now, this was the heyday of blogging. Movie blogs were huge, and again, Movie Morlocks was one of the top 2 or 3 out there. So when you wrote a piece for it, it got a lot of coverage. Now, that blog doesn't exist anymore, so I can't directly link you to my piece, although I did find reference to it on RogerEbert.com, because RogerEbert.com was also and remains a very big website on movies. And Jim Emerson had discussed greatest lists and greatest movies in an article and referenced my article, which you can see right there, talking about me complaining about limiting people to 2 choices of 10. Now, what you can't see, because if you click on that link to go to my article, it's a dead link because the blog doesn't exist anymore. But I was very harsh, and I was very blunt in my criticisms of the British Film Institute and the Sight and Sound poll that it conducts. A part of my harsh criticism was that if you want diversity, if you want more movies from more countries and more filmmakers and more decades, then you've got to stop with this top 10 crap. You've got to tell your participants that they can submit ballots of 50 or 70 or 100 titles. You've got to give them the freedom to list whatever they want and not feel like they're being boxed in by only being able to list 10. What happens then is you either get someone saying, well, I'm going to list 10 alternate titles that never get chosen, or I'm going to list, Battleship Potemkin and 8.5 and Citizen Kane because I don't want those to get left off by other people. That's what happens. The list ends up being entirely disingenuous because what people are actually doing is they're competing against other people's lists because they want to make sure certain movies get on the final list. If you actually want diversity, if you actually want other movies from other filmmakers in other countries and other decades to make your final list, well then, you're going to make it bigger. And so my argument and my criticism was pretty harsh and pretty blunt. I was basically saying, so BFI, I assume you're kind of all in favor of not being diverse on your list. By restricting everyone to a choice of only 10 titles, you are doing absolutely nothing, so congratulations. Now, here's the end result of all this, which I have absolutely no proof for, but I've long suspected it. Starting with that article, which I wrote early in the year anticipating the ballots being sent out, the participants being selected and notified, I wrote this piece. The piece, as I said, was on the TCM blog, Movie Morlock, so it got a lot of coverage, and no one at TCM, either in front of the camera as a presenter or behind the scenes as a writer like myself, film historians, were asked to participate in the Sight and Sound poll. And in 2022, once again. So, I have no proof that my piece had anything to do with that. But if it did, I want to apologize to everybody at TCM for that. If, in fact, I was the one that caused this, if indeed that is what happened. Probably not, but it's been suggested by a few people. Nonetheless, for the 2032 poll, I once again urge the British Film Institute to please stop with the top 10s. Please allow people to submit lists of at least 50 and cap it. Cap it at 100. We live in the age of computers. We have for, almost a century now, since ENIAC and UNIVAC. You can use computers to sort these lists. You don't have to have someone sitting down at a ledger like Bob Cratchit. Okay, so really, give them at least 50 and say cap it at 150, and then rank the movies from there, and you will have a far more diverse and equitable list. In fact, you will have the most diverse and equitable movie list you have ever produced. Stop with the top 10. It's pointless, it's reductive, and it is extremely limiting. That's about all I've got on this one. No offense to the New York Times. I understand that lists are clickbaity. I get it. People love looking at lists, and they love arguing about where things are on the list, and love arguing about which movie's the best and which movie's the worst, and so on and so forth. I understand that. I understand the need that people have for reading and making these lists. I just want them to be better about putting them together. That's all. See, I'm so reasonable. Now, if you like this because you think I'm just so gosh darn reasonable, then please give it a like and subscribe. As always, I appreciate your support, and of course, drive safely.